My name is Eleanor Thompson. I am now 78 years old. If you were to see me today sitting in this magnificent estate on a velvet chair by floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook endless green gardens and a sparkling private lake, you would probably think that I have lived a life of nothing but luxury, comfort, and privilege. The staff here call me Mrs. Eleanor with genuine warmth. They bring me fresh flowers every morning. They prepare gourmet meals tailored exactly to my taste. My private nurse checks on me gently several times a day. Visitors who come to the estate, lawyers, charity directors, even the occasional journalist, all look at me with admiration and say things like, "Mrs. Thompson, you are an inspiration. You've built something extraordinary." I smile politely, I nod, I thank them. But deep inside, every single time someone says that, my heart tightens, because the truth, the real truth, is that just 3 short years ago I had nothing. I was not sitting in a mansion. I was not surrounded by caring people. I was sitting on a hard, narrow bed in a tiny, cold room in a nursing home that smelled constantly of disinfectant, overcooked cabbage, and despair. My entire world had been reduced to one small suitcase, a few faded photographs, and a thin blanket that never quite kept me warm at night. And the people responsible for putting me there, the people who took everything from me, the people who looked me in the eyes and lied, were my own children. My son, Richard Thompson, my daughter, Sophia Harrington. The same 2 children I carried in my womb, the same 2 children I stayed up nights with when they had fever. The same 2 children I sacrificed every dream, every comfort, every moment of rest for so they could have a better life than I ever did. How did it come to this? How did a mother who gave everything end up abandoned, betrayed, and stripped of her home by the very children she loved more than life itself? Let me take you back step by step so you understand exactly how deep the betrayal went. I was born in a small town in the Midwest, the eldest of 4 children. My own parents were poor factory workers. We never had much, but we had love. I learned early that family is everything. When I met George Thompson at 20 while I was working as a waitress to put myself through teacher's college, I knew instantly he was the one. George was kind, hardworking, and had the most beautiful smile I had ever seen. He was a mechanic, strong hands, always a little grease under his nails, but the gentlest touch. We married in a simple ceremony at the local church. I wore a second-hand white dress. He wore his only suit. Our honeymoon was a weekend at a lakeside cabin borrowed from his uncle. 2 years later, Richard was born. He came into the world screaming loudly with a full head of dark hair and his father's bright blue eyes. I remember holding him for the first time, tears streaming down my face, promising him silently that I would give him the world. Sophia arrived 2 years after that. She was quieter, smaller, with soft curls and my green eyes. From the moment she gripped my finger with her tiny hand, my heart belonged to both of them completely. We bought a modest 3-bedroom house on a quiet street with a big backyard. It wasn't fancy, peeling paint in some places, creaky floors, a leaky basement when it rained hard, but it was ours. George worked long hours at the garage. I taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school. We saved every penny. We planted a vegetable garden together. We had picnics in the backyard on Sundays. Life was simple, but it was perfect. Then, when Richard was 10 and Sophia was 8, everything changed. George started complaining of pain in his stomach. At first, we thought it was just ulcers from stress. But the doctor's face when he delivered the news, I will never forget it. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Aggressive, 6 months to a year at best. We fought. Oh, how we fought every treatment, every experimental trial we could find. I quit teaching to care for him full-time. George refused to give up work until he physically couldn't stand anymore. We drained our savings. We took a second mortgage on the house. Friends organized fundraisers. But in the end, cancer won. George passed away in our bedroom, surrounded by me, Richard, and Sophia. His last breath was soft. His last words to me were, "Eleanor, take care of our babies. Promise me you'll always keep them safe." I promised him, and for the next 20 years I kept that promise with every fiber of my being. After the funeral, I was left with 2 grieving children, a mountain of medical debt, and a house that was barely paid for. But I didn't break. I couldn't break. I had promises to keep. I took 2 jobs immediately. Days waitressing at the local diner, on my feet 10 hours, smiling through sore legs and rude customers. Nights Cleaning offices downtown, scrubbing toilets, vacuuming endless carpets, emptying trash until my back screamed in pain. I would come home at 2 or 3 in the morning, sleep for 3 hours, then wake up to make breakfast, pack lunches, braid Sophia's hair, help Richard with homework, and get them to school on time. Weekends, more shifts, vacations, never once new clothes for myself, only when the old ones had holes. Dating, never. My entire life became about them. Richard wanted to play football, I paid for equipment, cleats, travel, tournaments. Sophia wanted dance and piano lessons, I worked extra shifts to cover the fees. When Richard struggled in math, I hired a tutor. When Sophia needed braces, I took a third weekend job at a grocery store. I never complained. Not once. Their happiness was my oxygen, and it paid off. Richard grew into a tall, confident man. He went to college on scholarships and loans I co-signed. He graduated with a business degree and became a successful real estate agent. By 35, he was driving a luxury car, wearing tailored suits, closing big deals. Sophia married David, a corporate lawyer from a wealthy family. I gave them every penny I had saved for her dream wedding, venue, flowers, dress, photographer. They bought a large house with a pool in an upscale neighborhood. They had 2 beautiful children, my grandchildren, Lily and Ethan, whom I babysat whenever they asked for free with joy. I was so proud, so incredibly proud. My house, the same modest family home, was finally paid off when I turned 60. I lived quietly there, tending my small garden, going to church, reading books, knitting blankets for the grandchildren. I thought this was my reward. A peaceful old age surrounded by family who loved me, but when I turned 75, things began to change. Slowly at first. My knees started aching constantly. Arthritis settled in my hands. Some days, I misplaced my keys or forgot a name. The doctor said it was normal, mild cognitive decline for my age, nothing serious. I was still fully independent. I cooked, cleaned, drove to the store, managed my own bills. But my children, they noticed. One evening, Richard and Sophia came over together, something they rarely did anymore. I was thrilled. I spent all day preparing their favorite meal. Pot roast, mashed potatoes with gravy, green beans, homemade apple pie with vanilla ice cream. We sat at the old oak dining table, the same table where we had celebrated every birthday, every holiday for decades. After dinner, they exchanged a glance. Then Richard spoke. "Mom, we need to have a serious conversation." Richard's voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that people use when they have already decided everything and are only going through the motions of informing you. "Mom, we need to have a serious conversation about your future." Sophia sat beside him on the old floral couch, the same couch where she used to curl up with her teddy bear and watch cartoons on Saturday mornings. Now she was 42, perfectly manicured nails, expensive handbag on the floor, looking at me with an expression that was meant to be concern but somehow felt rehearsed. I set down my teacup carefully. My hands trembled slightly, not from fear yet, but from age. "What is it, darlings? You both look so serious." Richard leaned forward, elbows on his knees, the way he used to do when he was a teenager asking for extra allowance. "Mom, we love you, you know that. We're only saying this because we care." He paused, glanced at Sophia, then continued. "You're 75 now, you're living alone in this big house, the stairs are steep, the yard is too much to maintain. You've been forgetting things, leaving the stove on twice last month, forgetting where you parked at the grocery store." I opened my mouth to protest. "Those were tiny mistakes. Everyone has them," but Sophia cut in gently. "Mom, please don't get defensive. We're not saying there's anything wrong with you. We're just saying it's not safe anymore for you to be here alone." I felt a cold knot forming in my stomach. I had heard stories from friends at church, children who moved their parents into facilities for their own good. But I never thought it would happen to me, not to us. We were different. I had given them everything. Richard pulled out a glossy brochure from his briefcase. He placed it on the coffee table in front of me. The cover showed smiling silver-haired people playing cards, walking in beautiful gardens, eating in a bright dining hall. The name of the place, Sunset Pines Senior Living Community. "Look, Mom, this place is top-rated. Private rooms, 24-hour nursing staff, gourmet meals, activities every day, yoga, art classes, movie nights, even a swimming pool. It's like a resort." I stared at the brochure. The people in the photos looked happy, but they also looked resigned, like they had accepted this was the end of their real lives. I shook my head slowly. Sweethearts, I appreciate you worrying, but I'm not ready for that. This is my home. Your father and I bought it together. You grew up here. All our memories are here. Sophia reached across and placed her hand on mine. Her hand was soft, lotioned, warm. Mine was rough, arthritic, spotted with age. Mom, we know it's hard, but think about us. We lie awake at night worrying you'll fall down the stairs or forget to take your medication. Or that someone will break in and you'll be alone. Richard nodded. And honestly, Mom, the house is getting to be too much. The roof needs repairs, the plumbing acts up, property taxes are going up every year. It's a burden, a burden. My home, the home I scrubbed and painted and loved for decades, was now a burden. I felt tears prick my eyes. But where would I go? This is all I have. Richard smiled reassuringly. That's why Sunset Pines is perfect. It's only a 30-minute drive from both of us. We can visit all the time, and they have different levels: independent living apartments first, then assisted if needed later. I looked from one to the other. Their faces were full of concern. Love even, or so I told myself. I didn't want to believe anything else. They kept coming back, every week for 2 months, bringing more brochures, taking me on a tour of Sunset Pines. The place was beautiful, I had to admit. Clean hallways, friendly staff, residents waving hello. But it felt institutional, like a very nice hotel you could never leave. During the tour, the admissions director, a kind woman named Margaret, pulled my children aside while I sat in the garden. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught phrases: power of attorney, financial qualification, asset review, long-term care costs. That night, back in my house, Richard and Sophia sat me down again, this time with a thick folder of papers. Mom, to get you the best apartment, the one with the garden view, there are some forms we need you to sign. Richard spread the papers out. These are just standard: admission agreement, medical release. And this one, he pointed to a document titled Durable Power of Attorney. This lets us handle bills and medical decisions if you ever can't. I hesitated. I'd like to read them first. Maybe have my friend Linda look them over. She used to be a paralegal. Sophia's face tightened for a split second, then softened. Mom, Linda isn't family. We don't want strangers involved in your private matters. And the apartment we want is filling up fast. If we wait, Richard added softly, we only want what's best for you. You trusted us your whole life. Trust us now. I looked at the papers. The print was small. My eyes were tired. My heart was tired. I didn't want to fight my own children. I didn't want them to think I didn't trust them. I didn't want to be a burden, so I signed. Page after page, my signature shaky but clear. I signed away my rights without knowing it. 2 weeks later, the moving day arrived. A white van pulled up. 2 men in uniforms began packing my life into boxes. My clothes, my photographs, my knitting, my wedding album. George's old watch that no longer worked, but I kept on the dresser. They left the furniture. The facility provides everything, they said. Richard and Sophia helped load my few belongings into their cars. Sophia hugged me tightly. This is going to be good, Mom, a fresh start. At Sunset Pines, they walked me to my new room, room 212. It was small, one window looking out at a parking lot, a twin bed with stiff white sheets. A tiny bathroom I would share with the woman next door, a single chair, a small dresser. I stood in the middle of the room holding my suitcase, tears rolling silently down my cheeks. Richard kissed my forehead. We'll be back this weekend to visit, promise. Sophia hugged me again. I love you, Mom, this is for the best. Then they left. The door clicked shut. I sat on the bed, and for the first time in my entire life, I felt truly alone. The first few weeks were bearable. They visited twice, brought flowers, took me to the dining hall, introduced me to other residents, but then the visits became once a month, then every few months. Phone calls replaced visits. We're so busy, Mom. The kids have sports. Work is overwhelming. I made friends with some of the other women. We played cards, watched TV in the common room, complained about the food. But every night, lying in that narrow bed, I cried quietly into my pillow. 9 months after I moved in, Sophia came alone. She was glowing, new highlights in her hair, designer purse, diamond earrings flashing. Mom. Big news? She sat on the edge of my bed, excited. We sold your house. My heart stopped. Sold, but you said this was temporary. She laughed lightly as if I'd made a silly joke. Mom, come on, you've settled in here so well. The house was just sitting empty, costing money in taxes and upkeep. We got an amazing offer, way over asking. The money will make sure you're secure here for the rest of your life. No worries at all. I stared at her, my home, my memories. Gone, sold by my own daughter. Where will the money go? She smiled reassuringly. Into a trust for your care. Richard and I are managing it. Everything is taken care of. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand answers. But I was old. I was trapped. I was dependent. What could I do? That night I didn't sleep. I sat by the window, staring at the parking lot lights. And for the first time, real anger began to burn inside me. Because deep down, I knew something they didn't. I knew about the secret. The secret I had kept hidden for more than 25 years. The secret that began long before they were even born, when George and I were young and ambitious, and a chance opportunity changed everything. That secret, it began more than 25 years ago. Long before Richard and Sophia ever imagined I was just a simple, struggling widow with nothing but a paid-off house and a tiny pension. Most people who knew me on the surface believed my story: devoted wife, school teacher turned waitress and cleaner, widowed young, sacrificed everything for her children. And that was true mostly. But George and I, we had a side that no one knew about. Not our families, not our friends, not even our children. When we were first married in our 20s, George wasn't just a mechanic. He was brilliant with machines, any kind of machine. He could take things apart, understand how they worked in minutes, and put them back better than before. In the evenings after work, he started tinkering in our garage. Not on cars, on computers. Back then, personal computers were brand new, expensive, clunky. Only big companies and rich people had them, but George saw the future. He taught himself programming from library books. He built his first computer from spare parts people threw away. Then he started writing software. At first, it was small things, programs to help local businesses keep inventory, simple accounting tools. He sold them to garages, small shops, restaurants. Cash under the table, nothing big, but word spread quietly. By the early 1980s, George had built something special. A full business management software suite, inventory, payroll, customer tracking, sales reports, all in one package. It was years ahead of anything on the market. Easy to use, affordable for small and medium businesses. He called it Thompson Business Solutions, TBS. We never put it in my name or his name publicly. George was smart, too smart. He set up the company under a trust with layers of anonymity. He said, "Eleanor, one day this could be worth a lot, but success brings jealousy, taxes, lawsuits. We keep it quiet, we protect it." I trusted him completely, so we ran it from home. I helped with bookkeeping, answering calls, packaging floppy disks to mail out. All cash flow went into separate accounts, offshore at first, then carefully structured trusts in the US. We lived modestly, drove old cars, wore simple clothes, no one suspected. By the late 1980s, TBS had thousands of business customers across the country. Quietly, word of mouth only, no advertising, no big office. Just George coding in the basement, me handling support calls from the kitchen table, and a small team of freelance programmers George hired remotely. Then, the big tech companies started noticing. One in particular, a giant that would later become a household name, saw TBS as a threat. Their own software was bloated, expensive, hard to use. Small businesses were choosing ours instead. In 1996, everything changed. A man in an expensive suit came to our house one evening. He introduced himself as a representative from Apex Technologies, one of the biggest software companies in the world at the time. He sat right there in our living room and made an offer, $800 million cash for full acquisition of Thompson Business Solutions, code, customer list, everything, non-disclosure agreement, no public announcement. The company would quietly disappear into theirs. George and I sat silent for a long time after he left. $800 million in 1996, that was billionaire money. We could have bought islands, private jets, anything. But George looked at me and said, "Eleanor, if we take this, our lives change forever. People will find out. Taxes will eat half. Relatives will come out of nowhere. The kids, they're still young. Money like this can ruin children. It can ruin families." I thought of Richard, 20 years old in college, Sophia, 18, just starting. I thought of how hard we had worked to teach them value, humility, hard work. We talked for weeks, prayed, sought advice from a trusted lawyer who specialized in wealth protection. And then we made a decision. We sold, quietly, through layers of trusts and holding companies. The money was wired in stages to protected accounts only I and George could access. Apex kept their promise, no public announcement. Thompson Business Solutions simply ceased operations. Customers were migrated to Apex products. No one ever knew who the real owners were. After the sale, we kept living exactly the same way. Same house, same old car. I kept waitressing and cleaning. George kept fixing cars at the garage until he got sick. We never touched the bulk of the money. Only enough to pay off the house quietly and cover medical bills in cash. When George died, he left instructions in a sealed envelope with our lawyer. Eleanor knows what to do. Protect it until the time is right. Never let the children know until they prove they can handle it or until you must protect yourself. I followed his wishes. The money grew, invested conservatively through the trusts, index funds, bonds, blue-chip stocks. By 2010, it had grown to over $2 billion. By 2020, closer to $4 billion, all hidden, all protected, all in my sole control through biometric and multi-signature requirements only I could fulfill. Richard and Sophia never suspected. They saw me struggle, they saw me work 2 jobs, they believed I had nothing, and in a way I let them believe it. Because George was right, I wanted them to build their own lives. To value hard work, to not be spoiled by sudden wealth. But now, locked in that nursing home, stripped of my home, watching them spend the proceeds from my house on vacations and new cars, something snapped inside me. For the first time in 25 years, I decided it was time. I still had my old flip phone, the one thing they let me keep. Late at night, when the hallway was quiet, I made a call. The voice on the other end was calm, professional. "Mrs. Thompson, we've been waiting for your instructions." I whispered, "It's time. Activate everything. I want full access restored, and I want my lawyer here tomorrow." The next morning, a woman arrived at Sunset Pines. She introduced herself as Claire Montgomery, a state attorney. She asked to meet with me privately. The staff allowed it. Claire sat across from me in the common room. She opened a briefcase and slid a tablet toward me. On the screen, account balances, trust summaries, property holdings I had quietly purchased over the years, the mansion I live in now, commercial buildings, stock portfolios, $4.8 billion, all mine, untouched by anyone else. Claire smiled gently. "Mrs. Thompson, what would you like to do first?" I looked out the window at the parking lot, then I looked back at her. "First, I want to leave this place today. Second, I want a full audit of every penny my children have taken or spent from my accounts since they got power of attorney. And third, I want them to know exactly who I am." Claire nodded. "Consider it done." That very afternoon, I walked out of Sunset Pines for the last time with my head high, my suitcase in one hand and a new future in the other, but I wasn't done, not even close. Because Richard and Sophia, they had no idea what was coming. They thought the money from the house was all there was, but in just a few days, their perfect lives would come crashing down. The day I left Sunset Pines, I did not look back. Claire Montgomery, my attorney, had a black luxury sedan waiting outside the front doors. The driver opened the door for me like I was royalty. I stepped in slowly, my legs still weak from months of inactivity, but my spine straighter than it had been in years. As the car pulled away, I watched the nursing home shrink in the rear window. The beige building, the manicured but soulless lawns, the residents sitting on benches staring at nothing. I had been one of them only hours ago. Now I was free. Claire sat beside me, tablet in hand. "Where to first, Mrs. Thompson?" I thought for a moment. "Take me to the house, my old house. I want to see what they've done with it." She nodded without question. The driver turned toward the familiar suburb. 30 minutes later, we pulled up in front of the address I had lived at for over 50 years, but it didn't look like my home anymore. The exterior had been completely repainted, modern gray with white trim, all the charming old details stripped away. The front yard, where I had grown roses and tomatoes for decades, was now covered in artificial turf. A sold sign still stood in the ground with Richard's Real Estate Company logo proudly displayed. A new luxury SUV was parked in the driveway. Richard's, I recognized the license plate. My heart ached. This was no longer my home, it had been erased. Claire noticed my silence. Would you like to go in? I shook my head. No, not yet, I just needed to see it. We drove away. Next stop. The estate that had been waiting for me all these years. The drive took an hour. We left the suburbs, passed through rolling hills, and entered a private gated community I had purchased anonymously a decade ago. The gates opened automatically, facial recognition tied to my biometric profile. The mansion came into view, 5 acres of land. A 12,000 square foot home with stone facade, wraparound porches, floor-to-ceiling windows, a guest house, pool, tennis court, and gardens designed by a famous landscaper. I had never lived in it. I had bought it as an investment, furnished it minimally, and kept it maintained by a management company. Now it was going to be my home. Staff was already waiting. A team Claire had activated that morning. A butler opened the car door. A housekeeper took my small suitcase. The private nurse introduced herself with a warm smile. They all knew who I was. They had been on standby for years, paid through the trusts. I walked through the grand foyer for the first time as the owner in residence. Tears came again, but this time tears of relief, of power, of rebirth. Claire set up a temporary office in the study. Over the next 3 days, we worked tirelessly. First, full financial audit. Every account Richard and Sophia had access to through the power of attorney was frozen pending review. Bank records were pulled, credit card statements, wire transfers, property records. What we found made my blood boil. The sale of my house had closed 2 months earlier. Sale price, $1.8 million, far above market value in that neighborhood. Richard, as my agent, had taken a 6% commission, $108,000 straight into his personal account. The rest, $1.692 million, had been deposited into an account they opened in my name but with themselves as sole signers. From that account, $300,000 down payment on a new vacation home in Florida for Sophia and David, $120,000 for Richard's new Porsche, $80,000 on luxury furniture and renovations for both their homes, tens of thousands on family vacations, private school tuition which they could easily afford, designer clothes, jewelry. Even $15,000 on a lavish birthday party for Sophia's daughter, my granddaughter. They had spent over $800,000 in just 2 months, like children in a candy store. My house money. My life's sanctuary, gone, wasted. But that was just the beginning. Claire discovered something even worse. Using the durable power of attorney, Richard had applied for a home equity line of credit on my old house before selling it, $200,000 drawn and spent. Sophia had redirected my Social Security and small pension checks into their joint account. They had even canceled my longtime health insurance policy and replaced it with a cheaper one to save money. Every move calculated. Every move assuming I would never find out. Assuming I was too old, too weak, too dependent to fight back. Claire printed everything, thick folders of evidence, bank statements highlighted. Emails between Richard and Sophia discussing mom's money. One email from Sophia to Richard. She'll never know. By the time she needs more care, there'll be plenty left for the good facility. We deserve this after everything. I read that line 10 times. We deserve this. Claire looked at me across the desk. Mrs. Thompson, we have multiple charges here. Financial elder abuse, fraud, forgery, undue influence, breach of fiduciary duty. This is criminal as well as civil. I nodded slowly. I want everything back, every penny, and I want them to feel what I felt. She understood. First step, revoke the power of attorney, already done this morning. Second, file emergency injunction to freeze all their assets tied to your funds. Third, demand accounting and repayment. Fourth, we decide if we go public or keep it private. I thought of my grandchildren, Lily and Ethan, innocent. They didn't deserve to suffer for their parents' greed. Keep it private for now, send them letters first, let them explain. The letters went out the next day, certified mail, one to Richard, one to Sophia. Thick envelopes from Claire's firm. Inside, a polite but firm demand letter, summary of findings, list of transactions. Demand for immediate repayment of $1.1 million house proceeds plus drawn credit. Notice that all assets purchased with my funds were now under lien. Deadline. 10 days to respond or face lawsuit and criminal referral. Then, we waited. The first call came from Richard exactly 6 hours later. I was sitting in the sunroom overlooking the lake when the housekeeper brought me the phone. "Call from your son, ma'am." I took a deep breath, put it on speaker so Claire could listen. "Mom," Richard's voice was panicked. "What the hell is going on? I got this letter from some lawyer saying I stole from you." "This is insane." I stayed calm. "Hello, Richard." "Mom, listen, this is a misunderstanding. We were managing your money for your care. You signed the papers." I signed papers for nursing home admission. "Not for you to sell my home and spend the money on vacations and cars." Silence on the line. "Then, how do you even have a lawyer? You're in the nursing home. Who's paying for this?" I smiled coldly. "I left the nursing home 4 days ago, Richard. I'm in my new home now, and I'm paying for everything myself." "New home? What new homes?" "Mom, you're confused. You don't have money for—" I cut him off. "I have more than enough. More than you can imagine." Another silence. Then Sophia got on the line, three-way call, her voice shaking. "Mom, please, let's talk in person. This is a mistake. We love you." I almost laughed. "You love me. You sold my house without telling me it was permanent. You spent my money on luxuries while I cried myself to sleep in a tiny room every night." "Mom, we were planning to tell you." "Stop, both of you. You have 10 days. Return every penny or I file charges." I hung up. That night they tried calling back a dozen times, left voicemails, texts, begging, explaining, blaming each other, but I didn't answer. 3 days later, they showed up at the estate gates. Security called me, Richard and Sophia in separate cars, demanding to see me. I watched them on the security camera, Richard pacing angrily, Sophia crying. I told security, let them in, but only to the front sitting room. And stay close. The confrontation was about to begin, and when it did, their world would never be the same again. Security let them in, Richard and Sophia, my own children. The ones who had raised me, loved me, and then thrown me away like yesterday's trash. I watched them on the monitor as they walked up the long driveway. Richard, tall and broad-shouldered in his designer suit, his face red with anger, fists clenched. Sophia, elegant as always in a cashmere sweater and pearls, but her makeup was smudged from crying, her steps hesitant. They entered the grand foyer, marble floors echoing under their shoes, crystal chandelier sparkling overhead. The butler led them to the sitting room, a room with plush velvet sofas, a roaring fireplace, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens. I had them wait there for 10 minutes, letting them stew, letting them wonder. Letting them feel a fraction of the helplessness I had felt in that nursing home room. Finally, I walked in, dressed simply but elegantly, a soft cashmere cardigan over silk blouse, pearls my husband George had given me on our 25th anniversary. My hair done nicely by the stylist Claire had arranged that morning. I looked like the woman I was meant to be, not the broken old lady they had left behind. Richard jumped up from the sofa. Mom, what is this place? How did you? Sophia rushed forward, arms outstretched like she wanted to hug me. Oh, Mom, thank God you're okay. We've been so worried. This must be some misunderstanding. I held up my hand, stopped them both in their tracks. Sit down. My voice was calm, steady, stronger than it had been in years. They sat, Richard on the edge of the sofa, legs bouncing nervously. Sophia perched primly, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. I took the armchair across from them. Claire sat beside me, folders in her lap. The butler stood discreetly by the door. Richard spoke first, his voice a mix of anger and confusion. Mom, this letter from your lawyer, it's ridiculous. We didn't steal anything. We were protecting your money. You signed the papers yourself. I nodded slowly. I did. I trusted you. I trusted my children to take care of me. Sophia leaned forward, tears streaming now. Exactly, we love you, Mom. That house was falling apart. The nursing home was beautiful. We picked the best one. We used the money to make sure you'd be comfortable forever. I looked at her, really looked at her. The daughter I had sewn dresses for, paid for braces. Babysat her children so she could have date nights. The daughter who had called me useless as she packed my bags. Comfortable, I repeated softly, in a room the size of a closet with strangers. While you spent my house money on a vacation home in Florida, a new Porsche for your brother. Richard's face went pale. How do you know about? Claire slid the first folder across the coffee table. Bank statements. Highlighted transactions, emails they had sent each other. Sophia gasped. Mom, this is private. How did you get these? I have ways, I said calmly. Better ways than you knew. Richard snatched the papers, scanned them quickly. His hands started shaking. This is nothing. We were borrowing. We were going to pay it back when what? I asked. When I died, when you didn't need the money anymore, Sophia sobbed louder. No, Mom, please, we made mistakes. But we're family, blood, you can't do this to us. Family, the word twisted like a knife in my heart. I thought of George's last days, how I had held his hand while Richard played video games in the waiting room. How Sophia had complained about missing her dance recital because of hospital visits. I leaned back in my chair. My lawyer has frozen all the accounts, the vacation home, the car, everything bought with my money is now under lien. You have to return it all, Richard exploded. This is insane. You're old, Mom. You're confused. You've been in that home too long. The grief from Dad, it's messed with your head. We'll get you a doctor, a new place. Just sign this back over. He pulled out a paper from his pocket, a new power of attorney, blank spaces waiting for my signature. I almost laughed, but instead I stood up, walked to the window. Looked out at the gardens George and I had dreamed of together. No, I said simply, I won't. Sophia stood too, desperate now. Mom, think about the grandkids, Lily and Ethan. They need their home, their stability. If you do this, we'll lose everything, our jobs, our reputations. Please, for them. The grandkids, my sweet Lily with her pigtails, Ethan with his gap-toothed smile. I had knitted their blankets, read them stories, loved them fiercely. But I turned to face her. I am thinking of them. They deserve better than parents who steal from their grandmother, who abandon her when she needs them most. Richard was on his feet now too, pacing, face twisted in rage. You bitch. After everything we did for you, we took care of you when Dad died. You took care of me, I interrupted, my voice rising for the first time. You dumped me in a home, sold my house. Spent my money on your luxuries while I cried alone every night. The room went silent. Only Sophia's sobs. Then I nodded to Claire. She opened the final folder, the big one. Mrs. Thompson would like to show you something else, Claire said calmly. Photos, documents, a video USB drive. Richard grabbed it. What is this crap? I sat back down. Sit. And watch. Claire plugged the USB into the TV across the room. The screen flickered on. First, the video from George, the one he recorded before he died, his face pale but smiling, his voice weak but clear. Eleanor, my love, if you're watching this, I'm gone, but I left you something special, something we built together. Thompson Business Solutions, sold for $800 million in '96. Grown to billions now, it's all yours. Protect it, darling, and our children only if they deserve it. Richard's mouth dropped open. Sophia froze. Billions? What? Next, bank statements, trust accounts. $4.8 billion in my name. Hidden all these years, then the FBI files George as an informant, helping take down the Torino crime family, laundering their dirty money through TBS while building cases, 47 arrests, including bosses who had threatened us, and finally the will, the real will. With the clause, if any child mistreats me, elder abuse, financial exploitation, their share reverts to me. They stared at the screen, then at me, horror dawning. You're a billionaire, Richard whispered. And Dad was FBI, I nodded. Yes, and you triggered the clause every time you lied, stole, abandoned me. Sophia collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing hysterically. Mom, please, we didn't know, forgive us, we're sorry. Richard tried one last time. We can fix this. Family therapy will pay you back double, just don't. The door opened. 2 FBI agents walked in, badges flashing, handcuffs ready. Richard Thompson, Sophia Harrington. You're under arrest for financial elder abuse, fraud, extortion, and money laundering. They had been listening, wired in the room, every word recorded. Richard fought, yelled, Mom, stop this, you can't, Sophia begged. Mommy, please. I'm your little girl. I watched as they were cuffed, led away, out of my mansion, out of my life. As the police car drove down the driveway, I felt it, peace, finally, but my revenge wasn't done, not quite. In the days that followed, their worlds crumbled completely. In the weeks and months that followed, Richard and Sophia's lives fell apart piece by piece. The news spread quietly at first through legal circles, then local papers, then national headlines. Prominent real estate agent and lawyer charged with elder abuse of billionaire mother. Their homes were seized to repay the stolen funds. Richard's Porsche was repossessed. Sophia's vacation house in Florida went into foreclosure. Their bank accounts frozen, credit cards canceled. Friends distanced themselves. Clients dropped Richard. David, Sophia's husband, filed for divorce, taking primary custody of Lily and Ethan. They both pleaded guilty to reduced charges to avoid trial. Richard, 3 years in federal prison. Sophia, 18 months plus 5 years probation. From behind bars, the letters started coming. Long, handwritten letters. Full of apologies, regrets, promises to change. Mom, we were wrong, we were greedy, please forgive us. Mom, we miss you, we love you, we'll do anything to make it right. I read every one, sometimes twice, and sometimes I cried. Because no matter what they did, they were still my children. The little boy who scraped his knee and ran to me for comfort. The little girl who fell asleep on my lap during thunderstorms. But forgiveness, true forgiveness, comes with boundaries. I wrote back once, 1 letter to each. To Richard, you broke my trust in a way no child should. You took my home, my dignity, and my peace. Time will tell if you've truly changed. When you're ready to be a real son, not for money, but for love, my door will be open. Until then, focus on becoming the man your father believed you could be. To Sophia, you were my little girl. I gave you everything. And you threw me away. The pain you caused will never fully leave me, but I pray for you every day. Raise your children with the values I taught you. One day, if you earn it, we can try again. I never sent money. I never bailaid them out. I let justice run its course, but the grandchildren, Lily and Ethan, they were innocent. After the divorce, David reached out. He was kind. He had no part in the betrayal. He asked if I would like to see the children. I said yes. The first visit was at my estate. Lily, now 10, and Ethan, 8, walked in wide-eyed. The grand foyer, the gardens, the playroom I had built just for them, toys, books, a swing set outside. They ran to me. Grandma, hugs that melted years of pain. We spent the day together, baking cookies in the huge kitchen, walking by the lake, reading stories by the fireplace. David watched quietly. At the end of the day, he said, "They've missed you so much. Thank you for this." From then on, the grandchildren came every weekend, sometimes with David, sometimes with a nanny when he was working. They called me Grandma Ellie. They slept in their own rooms I had decorated just for them. I taught Lily to knit. I taught Ethan to fish in the lake, and slowly my heart healed. With Claire's help, I founded the Thompson Family Foundation, a charity dedicated to protecting elderly people from abuse and exploitation. We built safe homes, provided free legal aid, ran awareness campaigns, funded research into elder rights. Within 2 years, we had helped thousands. The foundation grew to hundreds of millions in assets, all from my fortune. I traveled to openings, spoke at events, became a quiet advocate. Reporters asked, "Mrs. Thompson, after what your children did, how can you still believe in family?" I always answered the same, because family isn't just blood. It's choice. Every day we choose to love, to protect, to forgive, or not. I chose to protect others who have no one, and I chose to love my grandchildren without condition. That is my victory. Years passed. Richard was released first. He wrote again, humble this time. He had taken classes in prison, gotten counseling, found a simple job, lived in a small apartment. I invited him to the estate. One visit, supervised. He cried when he saw me, knelt down. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I was blind, greedy, stupid. I hate who I was." We talked for hours, no anger from me, only truth. I didn't hug him that day, but I said, prove it with time, with actions. Not words. Sophia was released later. She had changed too, lost weight, lost pride, gained humility. Her first visit was harder, more tears, more apologies, but slowly, very slowly, we began to rebuild, not as before. Never as before, but something new, fragile, honest. They never asked for money. They never came empty-handed, bringing small gifts, helping in the garden, volunteering at the foundation. And one day, years later, I forgave them, truly. In my heart, because hate poisons the hater, and I had too much life left to live in darkness. Today, at 85, I sit in my garden. The grandchildren, now teenagers, laugh as they play nearby. Richard pushes Ethan on the swing. Sophia and Lily pick flowers together. I smile. George would be proud. I turned betrayal into purpose, pain into power, loss into legacy. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's that no matter how dark the night, the sun always rises. Karma always finds its way, and love, real love, wins in the end, not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt betrayed, abandoned, powerless, remember me. Remember that your worth is not decided by others, your strength is inside you, and one day justice will come, quietly, beautifully, completely. This is Billionaire Thompson signing off with love.